Good morning. Welcome. Uh, I'm Anthony Rella. I'm in Seattle, Washington State. It's 9 a.m. for me, and good morning to all of you. Thank you for joining. And I want to talk today about the cycle of manifestation, which is, I would say, it's a basic teaching. It's just something that when you do spell work or a lot of magical practice, we encounter versions of it, and but also I kind of find as I get further along that basics, we never get over the basics. They're the base, they're the foundation, and so when I get deeper into my practice, it kind of makes the basics more interesting or more complicated. And so, I think it's interesting to revisit and go deeper into. So if you're really newer to this, then this might be kind of new or interesting information. If you've been doing this for a long time, hopefully you'll find something interesting or deepening about this. I welcome your hellos, and it's really lovely to see where people are from. And any questions you have, you're welcome to share. I will have time at the end, I believe, but also I might pay attention, get to them uh, throughout our call. And yes, I'm so shocked to hear about what happened in Minnesota, and I wish all of you as much safety and strength as you can get, as you need. So just going to move in. So basically, the cycle of manifestation is, I think of it in terms of spell work or just anything that we're going to manifest, anything that we want to make happen. And a lot of magical practice is about making things happen. Uh, a lot of you might do magical work that's more kind of psychic or more kind of I want to say esoteric, but many of us are also drawn to doing magic to make our lives different, or to make our communities different, or to change outer realities that are affecting our lives. Classically, people want love, they want money, they want stability. We might want safety, or we just want to create something. We live in this world, and we get to participate in it. We get to participate in making this world what it is. And doing spell work or any kind of magical practice is one form of participation. And so, when you want to manifest something, you're bringing it forward. So you might manifest a book, or you might manifest a job, or a relationship, or start a business, or a garden. So just anything that you want to bring forward that isn't already there is you might consider manifestation. And so to think about the cycle of manifestation, I thought about the cycle of fruit, basically fruit as a kind of a metaphor. There's a lot of ways we could look at this, but I thought this was interesting, where when you start, a fruit starts with a seed. The seed contains all the potential. Yes, you can manifest a gender change or manifest your true gender. That's absolutely, definitely a manifestation process. So many of us start with seeds, and the seed is like an idea, a goal, a dream, a vision, just something that you you see as possible, you want to be possible, but it doesn't exist right now. And so a seed is planted, and then if the conditions are right, then the right combination of soil, sun, water, it starts to grow, it starts to sprout, and the sprout is very vigorous. It's taking root in the soil. It's starting to come out of the ground. It's not at full manifestation yet, but it's becoming alive. It's growing, and then eventually it comes into the flowering stage, which I consider kind of well, I'll get to that in a second, but kind of not exactly the full manifestation, but the flowering is like the full moon stage, where it's the opposite of the seed. It's fully manifest. It's opening to the sky, to the light, and to fertilization. Uh, I just said fully manifest. Well, I said I didn't want to say that, because basically I consider that actually the beginning of the full manifestation. So the flower is this beautiful thing in of itself, but what it's really good at is taking in fertilization and then manifesting the fruit. And so the fruit, I think, is kind of what we're really looking for. And then the fruit is an interesting phase because it's something you can both enjoy for itself, something you can use for a lot of purposes, but also it contains seeds. So it contains the seeds of the next part of the cycle. And so, I think a lot of our manifestations either go through these cycles over and over again in large and small ways, or we're kind of trying to once we get to a certain part of the cycle, we want to extend it as long as possible. But even in that extension, you might plant little seeds to kind of keep growing it. So, for example, from my life, I wanted to work for myself at one point. I wanted to start my own practice. Uh, and first it was a seed, it was an idea, it was a hope. I saw other people had done it, but I didn't know if I could do it. But it was not real. And I held on to that seed for a long time before I finally wanted to make it manifest and make it work. And so first I planted the seed. I started doing the work of promoting myself and trying to get clients and figuring out marketing and paperwork and all that stuff. And then there started to be a sprout where I had a space to practice. I had all this stuff to try to draw attention to me. I wasn't exactly getting clients yet, but it was growing. It was growing. I was doing the work. And then the flowering was the beginning. The flowering is when all of a sudden I started getting clients. And once I started getting clients, then I started getting an income, and that became the fruits. And I'm still enjoying the fruits today. The fruit is that I have a practice that's paying me right now, that is drawing clients, that is kind of uh, it doesn't require so much effort. It's kind of already there, and I get to savor it. And also, it includes opportunities for stuff like this because I was able to make that part of my life work. I could plant the seed of doing a book. So that's kind of the large cycle. And the next part is hopefully that's legible. I will read it. But each of these also is associated with certain elemental qualities, certain times of day. We have these associations to represent cycles in general that we all live through. We live through seasonal cycles. Every day we live through a cycle from morning to night to morning again. We live the moon has its own cycles, the sun has a cycle, and then of course then there's the astrological cycles, which is where I drew the elemental correspondences. So the seed part I associate with like it's pure potential, but also it's kind of a state of you might say death, you might say non-life. It's the potential of life, but it's not fully alive at this moment. And so it associates with newness, like the new moon, midnight, where there's no sun. It's the depth of night. It's that still point. Winter, when things are static, are fallow, but still have the potential of life. And then also I associate that with Capricorn, which is in astrology, that's cardinal Earth. That's the initiating force of Earth, where it has all this potential for realization, but it's not there yet. So Capricorns are really good at having this long-term goal. Like they have a seed, they can tell you in 20 years where they want the seed to be, and they're here to kind of make it grow, make it start. But then that moves into spring, which is the sprouting phase, and so that's associated with Aries, which is cardinal fire. And so cardinal fire is the energy that makes growth. Like Aries is very quick, very vigorous. It pushes through hardship. It pushes through soil and dirt, and it becomes stronger. But it's also very vulnerable and tender because it's at an early phase of growth. Oh yeah, and then it's also associated with sunrise, dawn, the waxing moon, springtime, just all these energies of new growth, like energy invigorating, moving in and getting us going, getting us moving. And then that moves into flower, which is the summer association. So that's noon, where it's like the sun's at its highest height, the full moon, where the moon is its brightest, it's most open, visible. summertime, things are growing, there's a lot moving. And then Cancer, which is a cardinal water sign of astrology that's associated with whatchamacallit, the solstice, the summer solstice. And so, uh, you know, what's beautiful about Cancer is it's I think it associates with the flower well because it's got that crab, it's got armor. Like the flower at night can close to protect itself as a bud, but it also has this beautiful potential for openness, for vulnerability, and for nurturance. Like often that's associated with Cancer is that ability to nurture new life, nurture children, things like that, and a great deal of love and sweetness. And so that flower phase is a very nurturing phase. It's a very attractive phase. And it's also kind of the height of power for your manifestation. And then it moves into the fruiting stage. And I think the fruiting stage is, I want to say, the most interesting. They're all interesting, but fruiting is associated with dusk. With it's the other transition. It's the transition from day to night when energy is falling. Dusk is moving. Thank you. Somebody said I'm very calming. I have heard that, and I'm happy to share that with the world, especially at this time. So thank you. um, and so also with the waning moon, the moon that's moving from fullness to newness. So it's that energy of kind of closing down, kind of calming as well, in autumn, and also of Libra, which is the cardinal air sign associated with the autumnal equinox. And so, what Libra is good at is weighing things, assessing things. It's initiating the next phase of, we have all this harvest, we have all this growth. Now, what are we going to do with that? Like, I have this apple. Am I going to make it into a pie? Am I going to make it into applesauce? Am I going to just straight up eat it? Am I going to save these seeds? What am I going to do with it? And one of the things, and then then you have the seed to move into the next cycle. So it's a continuous thing, and each cycle feeds the next cycle. If you've been doing this for a while, you might have slightly different associations with some of these elements, which is also, I mean, you can make an argument for any of them. And what matters the most is that you find the one that really resonates with you and you work with it. But what I find interesting about this, because before I thought about the astrology, I would have associated air with the east and water with the west, and then fire with the south. But with air being associated with Libra, the waning moon, with dusk, it also made me think about how fruit has this sort of, it's called ethylene gas, I believe, and it's the gas that ripens the fruit that makes it delicious and makes it really, desirable. And when you get a pair, some green bananas, you want to wait until they ripen a little bit so that they become more and more delicious. But also, the longer you wait, the same gas starts to make them decay. And so it's this really interesting, it moves into it's the living and dying thing. It's moving from life to death, but also in that process of ripening and maturing, it's bringing out these qualities that are desirable. And so that's what I think of, to me, as the full manifestation, because it's often what we live with the longest. Once you have the job or the partnership or whatever, you're there to savor it. You're there to work with it and to try to bring out its good qualities and to stave off the decay as long as possible. But part of that, part of that, we'll get into in a second. So I threw in some examples. I think I kind of thought of this as maybe like a testing yourself or associating. You can read these if you like. I'll go ahead and read them. There are some interesting comments as well that I'm kind of finding myself torn between. But this is just, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to any of these questions necessarily. I'll tell you my associations is just how I think about it. So this is an example intention. Let's say you do spell work to have a career that provides income to sustain your life. And so, I have three conditions that, you might think, okay, I did this spell and this is happening. Where am I at my manifestation cycle? So the first one is finding an affordable training that would position you to get that well-paying job. To me, I might put that at the sprouting phase because it's not quite what I want, but it's going to get me there, or I hope it's going to get me there, and it requires a lot more effort and vigorousness, which is that sprouting Aries energy. It's unfortunate, but in those early phases, you kind of have to hustle a lot harder than you want to later, and that's also exciting. That's very invigorating. That feels great. Once you throw yourself into it, it feels really stimulating, but it's also kind of tiring. Like one does not want to live at that pace forever. But if you see this training and you think like, okay, this is going to get me to really where I want to go, that might get that sprouting energy going for you. Then there's the finishing the training and having the marketable thing to apply for jobs. I think that as the flowering phase, because it's like, look at me, I'm really pretty. Don't you want me? Like, don't like I've got I've got this thing that I've manifested enough that I can draw in, attract things from the world to really get towards the next phase of manifestation. So I'm not, again, I haven't fully gotten the thing yet, but I'm drawing in the thing that I want so that I can manifest the thing that I really want. And then finally, getting the job with enough money to pay for all your needs with extra monies as you will. That's the dream. I would say that's the fruiting phase. That's where it's like I really get to enjoy what I've worked so hard to do. And also, I have potential to plant new seeds. I have extra money. I could do other things that I didn't even think I could do when I was hustling for this job. Like I could start a garden, I could travel, something like that. So I'm going to get back to this in a second. I'm just going to look at the comments very quickly because just appreciating some of the perspectives. There's some skepticism of my qualities, which is totally fine, but I appreciate the reflection and the validation that this is coming across well. One person is asking about impatience with the sprouting phase, and I'm kind of noticing as I think about that. I'm in Aries. I have an Aries sun, so I'm like very. There's a part of me that's like, of course you're impatient. Like it's a very impatient stage. Like it's. I think that's. I don't want to be dismissive because I think it's a both and. Like I think impatience is a part of the process. Like that's part of the energy that gets us going and being like, okay, I'm going to keep hammering at this. I really want this, or I really want this. And the other piece is we do need to have some perspective and some patience with the process. But also, it is the hardest thing. I think it is one of the hardest things in that phase because there's no guarantee of success because we're being putting in all this work and effort and not you might be seeing some early results but you don't really feel that confidence that you're getting what you want. Like when we're at the flowering phase, at least there's this, okay, I really have something to show for all this work. But in the sprouting phase, it is a lot on I don't want to use, part of me wants to say a lot on faith, which I actually don't like that phrase very much, but that's I think the best one I've got right now. Hope, a lot on hope. It's really investing in this dream and hoping it's going to work out. And the more we do this, the more we practice manifestation and get through several cycles that work out, the more confidence you have with that process. But also, it's very hard to be in that process. Like we have a new puppy, and I've had dogs before. This is the first time I've gotten a puppy, and I'm finding in this training phase, there's a lot of sprouting going on, and she's doing great. But I'm having these moments where I'm like, I hope we get a good dog out of this because right now it's really hard. So I think it's I would say about patience with the sprouting phase is to try to look towards people who have done what you want to do or something similar, either to listen to what they have to say about it or to get their perspective or mentorship. Just even having someone who's been there before saying like, "Oh yeah, that's all a part of it. It's very normal." That can really kind of soften and bring in some more ease. So if you can't have the confidence, if you can get somebody to kind of loan you some of their confidence, that really helps with that phase. Um, there's several phases of maturation, though. Yeah, there are several phases of maturation. One of the questions is that there are several phases of maturation, and when would I say the best harvest time would be for the best results? And that is a great question. And I would say that my model here is simplified. It is simplified kind of just to make it easier to talk with, but also there's more complexity you can build in with this question. And I uh, I think I'm going to get back to this whatchamacallit, this thing, uh, to talk about that a bit more. Especially the other question is it best to manifest where the sun or moon is in the sprouting phase? So, um, what I would say is becomes really interesting and rich about this manifestation practice, especially when we're looking at the multiple associations. So if you want to do manifestation work with this cycle, you can use all these associations for this. So if you have a big project, then you might it's going to take a while. You might wait till Capricorn season, winter time, and do some spell work of like, this is the seed I'm charging. I want this to be manifest in a year. I'm going to use this energy of winter and Capricorn to really charge up this seed. uh, or and you might decide like, it's not quite winter, but I want to bring in more, I want to bring in more like energy into my day. Like I want to get back to the gym. I want to bring in more vigor into my life, and it's like summertime, but I might try to work with the energies of dawn and say, okay, I'm going to get up. I'm going to go to the gym at dawn and invite in some of that sprouting energy just to kind of get me out of my rut. I would not personally do that, but somebody might. I'm not going to wake up that early. Or you might use the lunar cycles. So um, you're feeling really stuck in your job, and there's some dynamics that are really toxic, and you want to kind of weed them out of your job to invite fresh energy. So you might use the waning moon, that energy of decrease, to kind of pull away, to let decay, to harvest or rot, put out the rot, and make space for seeds of new growth. And so you can use any of these cycles for that, and you can also use the energy of these cycles to invite in adjustments to the manifestations you have. As I was just saying, I can pull in some of that seed energy now, or I can pull in some of this sprouting energy. And then the other thing that becomes really interesting to me, and especially around like questions like when to do this work, or levels of harvest, you can use kind of the tiers of magic, the tiers of these associations, where I have examples in the book I wrote about how to do this, but um, like I'm gonna do flowering magic in the summertime, but I'm gonna wait till midnight because I wanting to seed something in this flowering time, and I'm gonna wait till the waning moon so I can invite some like, you know, see some sprouting energy into the seed into this flower time. That's getting a little esoteric. I can't think of a concrete representation of that, what that would look like, but basically. It's kind of depends on where, like using this cycle and choosing when to do your magic kind of depends on what to look at, how what's here now and what do I want to have happen, because you might already have a lot of stuff in place that feels like you don't I don't need to manifest a whole new relationship, for example, but I would like to um, have a child, something like that. So I might uh, it's interesting now that I'm thinking, yeah, so I might work with flowering energy. That might be what yeah, the flowering of summer with the seed of midnight, like invigorating. Yeah, that might be a good association. I mean, again, this is kind of a thinky thing, and you can kind of what helps about it is a reflection. It's a way of organizing your thinking about what's going on and what you want, and so you can decide whether something feels ready to harvest or not. Or you can decide if you feel like you're at a flowering stage and you want to work with that. You get to pick those associations and do the magic that works for you. This is just sort of a framework to help kind of organize your thinking so that you can make those assessments. Um, there was a thought I just had. Yeah, yeah. Somebody mentioned that the height of one stage has the seat of the opposite stage. That's absolutely a part of this as well, and that's part of why I think it's interesting that it's a cycle. Is that um, it's continuous. We kind of think of the elements as static, as states that you can be in, and I think there's truth to that. But we're always just in the cycle. There's always change unfolding. There's always movement from one to the other, and so it's kind of working with that energies to increase uh, the likelihood of success, or just to help you be oriented to what's going on. So I'm going back to the question about when is the right time to harvest, and I'm thinking about bananas again because um, I can come home with a set of green bananas, and I really want to wait to eat them when they're yellow and spotted. That's like the best time for bananas. For me, that's when I love them the most. Other people, they don't like the flavor when they get to that level. But sometimes I get impatient and I'm like, I just want a banana right now. I'm going to eat the green banana, and that's just fine. So I think that kind of thinking, when you're thinking about when's the right time to harvest, I feel like that's part of what you're exploring. So I have this thing, and is it ripe enough for me yet? Do I want to wait and let it ripen a bit more? Or is it good enough for this purpose? Again, this is a little bit esoteric. I want to ground it in a real example, uh, but I'm having trouble, and we have 2 minutes. But so it's just something to think about. You get to kind of explore, and you might in your explorations find you waited too long and it got too right, but at least you have this practice now, and you learn something so that the next cycle you might harvest a little sooner. Uh, there's one more. Oh, somebody asked about accelerating the cycle. Like what about how to accelerate the cycle? Uh, so I wrote a book called Slow Magic because my work in my life is slowing down my desire to accelerate the cycle. As I said, I'm in Aries, I'm impatient, and I've learned the hard way. Sometimes cycles don't. Sometimes it's better just to go with the cycle that is. Uh, you gotta if you try to rush it, you might not get what you're looking for. You might interrupt the process. You might not get the ripest manifestation that you want because you were pushing ahead. So this is a practice of studying and kind of aligning yourselves with the cycles. But I would say if you feel urgency, I would go for investing some sprouting energy and just like trying to call it like I want to add some fire energy into this and just see what happens. But that would be something to explore and experiment with. So I know that we're reaching our time, and I really appreciate all the engagement and the questions. This has been really fun, and I wish you well. Thank you so much.